It's just not visitor, right?
No, remember. All right, I guess we'll start with Pledge Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lon, do you want to do the honors?
So, Heavenly Father, we ask for your guidance over this trying times for our country and the world. Lord, be with our service members and their families that are out there protecting our freedoms, Lord. Be with us tonight to learn and help serve our community. And bless this time, we pray. Amen.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Hey, how you doing, dude? Is your membership in yet?
I haven't gotten an email yet.
Okay.
It's been about a week now since I sent it in.
Okay, yeah, the numbers haven't changed, but Ryan's just came through, so you can't be far behind.
Hopefully I did everything right.
So that's cool. We'll start off with an aircraft update today. And Ron, if you want to take that away.
Sure, the Turbo 206 437 is still waiting on a decision for them to fix cylinders or replace the engine, so no, I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, I've prodded Gary and he's prodded National and no response yet. So that's sitting there waiting. We put Zelda in for the 100-hour inspection yesterday. There was an oil leak detected on the prop, and so it confirmed with Wing, so they take the prop off and send it in. I asked them to look at the governor too, just to make sure. Usually it's a pretty new overhauled engine, so I'm sure the governor was already overhauled during that process, but Mike's gonna look into that tomorrow also, just in case we need to send that in.
There's a slight catch when you pull the RPM back, a click. Do you know what I'm talking about?
On Zelda, no.
On Zelda, when you take the RPM, check the low RPMs, you cycle the RPMs, there's at about the 1 inch mark of retraction, there's a click. Mike knows about it. I don't know if it was squawked or not. I can't remember. Doesn't seem like it's been squawked, but
No.
they should look at that. I'm sure that there's just something.
When we first got that plane, there was some problems, if you remember, about the RPM, that we had to have that adjusted. Remember that?
That was had to do with the prop, the governor, I think.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
governor speed.
Yep.
This is something different. It's a mechanical and audible click when you hear it. It's a little bit of kind of like when you pull it back, it catches, and you can pull it past that point.
Well,
The other thing is cylinder number 1, the probe was working on the last 2 flights. When I flew it on Sunday, it
Oh.
was working.
probably a loose connection.
And also, yeah, so, all right. So, we're going to be flying that airplane, it looks like, for a little while longer. One at the Nationals recommendation for Cap 437, the Turbo 206, that came back to Gary was to fly it for 20 more hours and see if the rings seat. And just put plenty of oil in there.
No, that was not confirmed the last
Oh,
time.
this is, I'm just going on what Mike had told me
Today?
last week.
No.
Okay.
No, Gary pushed back on
All right,
that.
so good. Somebody push back on that? All right. So that's where that stands. So we've got a visitor here. Would like a chance for you just to introduce yourself. You probably, if you've been here before, you've done it already. So can you tell us who you are, where you're from, and how'd you hear about us, and what you'd like to do with CAP?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I've been a couple times where I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, name is Jimmy. Pilot trained. I was recommended for me to come, based on, especially my buddy here. We talked about a lot of stuff that we had in common, and so recommend I come.
So
here and sit
you
on
have your
screen.
pilot's license right now, or are you in training?
No, I'm still
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah.
toward the end there, but.
All right, well, there's plenty of opportunities to fly. Regardless, there's 3 people on the airplane, only 1 can fly, right? So we need that. So welcome.
Thank you.
And I don't think that's, yes, welcome. All right, so let's see, is there any other business we need to talk about right now? The Christmas party is coming up. What was the date on that?
I think the 20th, I believe, Tuesday night.
see if I put it in my...
I took a picture.
The 21st would be the Tuesday, and that's 3 days before Christmas, which means no one will be there.
I think that's the date.
The 21st?
Yeah.
This was obviously made without me here. I don't know who's watching, but, all right. We'll see how that works out. Hopefully good. We are dark next week, right?
Yeah.
Thanks. The airplane is down in 100 hour. We just talked about that, so there's not gonna be any flying going on for the next week. The prop's been taken out, so we're hopefully gonna get this airplane back maybe by next Wednesday. Now, Emma, I know that you're really pushing to get that Form 5, and so just the time. It's just what happens in CAP. Unfortunately, the airplanes go down for the 100 hour right when you've probably flown and we're ready to take the Form 5. So anyway, hopefully we get it back soon. Tonight we're going to talk about something that you guys all will need to know backwards and forwards to fly the airplane, okay? We've talked an awful lot about training in the aircraft and ES training and all that. And aside from those people that are in the Form 5 program right now, I've really talked very little about what I'm going to talk about tonight. And that is how to navigate through and work in WIMRs. To not only schedule the airplane, but also to enter a sortie and all the information that's associated with that, get a flight release, and then close out that sortie and do an E108, okay? So let's talk about what all of that means, first of all. To fly a Civil Air Patrol aircraft, obviously you've got to be Form 5 checked out in the airplane. But once you are, now you're going to have to know WIMRs backwards and forwards. You're going to have to know this before you get checked out, by the way, and that's part of the reason why we're recording this tonight. People, if you don't want to take notes, you go home and watch it later as well. But you're going to have to understand how to schedule the airplane. So let's talk about there's a couple of different ways to schedule the airplane, okay? Now I'm logged into eServices right here, which is the landing page, okay? Right now, so I'm going to go back to actually the landing page here. Where is it? eServices home. How do I get rid of that?
Click the propeller.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so here I am at eServices home. You'll see at the bottom here, I'm going to zoom in here, right here, Civil Air Patrol sites, WIMRs, okay? This is the mission utility right here. This eServices is where you go to find publications, personnel information perhaps, forms, online courses, etc. But WIMRs is our operational site. So we go to WIMRs. That's the very first thing you've got to do. And you land on this page right here that says current missions. Are you focusing in on that? Okay. Current missions. There's tabs over here to the left as well. Operations, planning. Let's open up this one that says support. You'll see scheduling module down here, okay? You want to just go in and schedule the airplane for some date in the future. Let's say you think that you want to use it for cadet rides that weekend, or you might want to use it for a sea flight, or you're just not sure. You go and say, okay, on the December 25th, I think I'm going to do a Christmas flight, and I'm going to click it there, and then I'm going to select the tail number here. Now these tail numbers aren't automatically here, so let's go back and show you how you do that. Up here at the top it says aircraft information and update my preferences. When you click on here, update my preferences, you can add an aircraft. If you don't do this, you'll see every aircraft in the wing. It gets very noisy on the schedule, okay? I happen to have a lot because I'm a Group CD officer and I have to keep track of a few different airplanes, but in any event, if you want to add a new airplane, just go there, select the wing you want to add it for, and then see over here where it looks blank? This will get you for a few minutes, okay? But it won't now because I'm going to show you that all you got to do is scroll down and that's where the airplanes start. Don't ask me why, okay? But that's how it is. Look for the end number that you want, click it, save the change, and now when you go back to the calendar, okay, and go back to this December 25th that you wanted to schedule your flight for, click on that, it says tail number, and there, magically the tail number will be there, okay? So I'm gonna schedule our airplane 7598 Zulu, and now when I click select mission, see all these missions that pop up? These are all missions that are in Wimmers, okay? But I don't necessarily know which one I'm gonna fly right now, so I'm just gonna click to be determined. And I'm gonna put a start time of, let's say, 8 in the morning. The other thing up here you might notice is it says PSD, or if I click that, it can go Zulu time. So you can look at the schedule as Zulu or PST. I don't recommend looking at it in Zulu time, okay? So select that, 8 in the morning, for how many hours or days? I'm gonna say 3 hours. And then it'll say, do you wanna add a sortie right now? Which, if you wanted to add a sortie, you could do it right now, but I never do it. If I'm scheduling the airplane this way, it's basically I'm scheduling it out a long way off, okay? So that's really what I wanna impart here. Schedule it out. So I click schedule, I come back over here, and now there's this, it's on the schedule. That's an easy way to schedule the airplane several weeks out, okay, when you don't know what mission that you're flying, okay? If you know the mission that you're flying, don't do it this way. I'm going to show you the other way to do it, okay? So we come back here, we'll go back to Wimmers, and we'll just imagine that this is the first time I'm going in there. Now here are all of the mission numbers that are out there. Again, don't ask me why some of these are expired. I don't know why. They don't erase these out. There's some in here from, did they erase them out actually? No, okay.
You can filter them.
Well, there's some down here that expired in 2021 that are green, okay? But, and the yellow ones are not approved yet, and the green ones are approved, but don't be bitten by it's the wrong year. Well, first of all, it won't let you schedule any. You get all the way in there, it'd be like, you gotta schedule a mission that's actually open, okay? Well, when you're looking at all these missions right here, you're looking for, let's say you're looking for Form 5, right? That seems to be one that everybody in here is going to be doing soon, I hope. So the description right here says annual Form 5. Here's the mission start and end. That date looks good. And it says California. That's okay, so that's the one that I'm looking for. But guess what? You can come down here, there's one that says annual Form 5, 21 to 22, and PCR. What's PCR mean? That means Pacific region. Okay? That's the wrong mission. You want to do a California mission. So every mission we're doing is a California mission, number one, and then check the dates to make sure that you're in a mission that's open through this fiscal year. Because there might be that Form 5 mission down here that's still green, not cleared out of there for whatever reason from last year. This especially happens in the first couple of months of the new fiscal year, okay? So that's where we're at right now.
Those Form 5's a mission?
Form 5 is an A mission, yeah. So these are all of the missions that are open. You landed on that page, right? But let's talk about what I do with my folder here. Background is right there.
Terry,
Each one of those missions has a different number next to it? Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but or take you down a tangent, but something else is that each member needs to get their bank account registered, because we no longer pay at the desk. It gets automatically deducted, or you get sent a bill at the end of the month.
That is all done differently now. They send you a bill and you can pay with PayPal or that. So you don't have to have your bank account. It just goes with your email.
But if
Yeah.
you get reimbursed, that's,
We don't really get reimbursed on anything. We're usually paying in that case, like sea flights. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I want to have you guys jot this number down, okay? This can be found in e-services. It's CAP standard 72-2, okay? That's the mission symbols. On the mission page here, each one of these missions has a different mission symbol, A7, A9, A12, A15, and all that. All those are decoded with this 72-2, okay? Essentially, all A missions are Air Force assigned missions that are reimbursable by the Air Force. That's an A mission. Can anyone guess what an A1 mission is? That's search and rescue. That's the #1 mission, okay? A2 is drone escort, okay? They're all listed right here on this sheet. A3 is a counter drug mission. A5 is Air Force evaluation missions and training. A7, I'm going to skip over a couple because they don't matter. A7 is a CAP Form 5 and 91. A12 is proficiency flying. Why am I going through this? I'll tell you in a second. A12, A15 is cadet orientation flights. A18 is homeland defense, like NORAD flights. The lower the number, the higher the precedence of the mission. So let's just say that you had scheduled that mission out there, like I just did on Christmas Day, for a TBD. Any A mission that somebody wants to come along and take that airplane away from you because you just had TBD, they can do it. And they don't have to tell you either. It's courtesy that they do tell you, and I'm hoping that everybody in this squadron would always reach out to that pilot and say, hey, I hope you don't mind, but I've got a A3 counter drug mission that I'm flying that weekend. What were you going to use the airplane for? And you say, well, I was just going to do a C proficiency flight. You know, then you just take the airplane, okay? So everything's in order of precedence. So those are all the A missions. The B missions are the same thing. B1 through, they're all the same, but they're not reimbursed by the Air Force. That's the only difference. They're still being flown for and by the Air Force, or for the Air Force. Now you'd say, okay, I'm not being reimbursed, so what difference does it make if I fly a B mission, let's say a B mission 12 for proficiency, or a C mission 12 for proficiency? Because the next letter is C, corporate. That was the Civil Air Patrol one. So you've got A and B are Air Force, much tighter regulated, okay? And we'll talk about that when we're building the sorties in terms of briefing the sorties and debriefing the sorties and all that. Versus C missions, which are a little more less structured, okay, because you're paying for it anyway, and they're corporate missions. The difference between the two is insurances, okay? You're covered by much better insurance when you're flying a B-12 than a C-12, even though you're going out and flying the exact same mission, okay? So my general rule of thumb is I always fly B missions, no matter what. Like if I'm going to go out and fly and pay for it myself, I'll just go ahead and fly a B-12. Okay? Now, that means there's two different kinds of proficiency flight profiles. And jot this standard down, okay? Standard 71-5, corporate flight proficiency, or 71-4, which is AMFAM, okay? Which is basically B, A or B proficiencies, okay? There's, I think, 9 or 10 different proficiency flight profiles in this AMFAM, and there's essentially 3 or 4 in the CAP standard, okay? You just have to choose which, like I said, this is a little bit less structured, but also less insurance. The A mission, if you're flying A-12 proficiency, you're going to have to give them a lot of information because we're being reimbursed on it. You have to do the same information even though you're not being reimbursed on B-12, but you have better insurances. So I hope I'm not conflating everything there, but I just want to point out the fact that these are all different mission symbols. You can define what those are by pulling up that syllabus there. And also, it'll also describe what the mission is next to that, by the way, when you're looking for it. The bottom line is you're going to go in here and fly one of these green missions, okay? And you're going to, so if it's proficiency, you just got to look for the one that says proficiency within the right dates in California, or if it's a cadet O-ride, the right dates in California, and etc. okay? And then the mission symbol will be defined next to it. But the main thing is any proficiency flights, just keep that in mind. A and B missions have got to be flown according to these profiles, and C according to corporate, and you'll be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and let's build a proficiency profile for California annual pilot proficiency right here, okay? On the left-hand side over here, you'll see the mission number, 22 Alpha 3539. If you click on that, this will tell you a bunch of information about the mission. If it was a flight clinic, or if it was emergency services, or emergency procedures, whatever, it would tell you what the purpose, the mission scenario and the purpose is. So if you had any ideas to whether or not, if you weren't sure if you could fly that, it would tell you right here, mission transport pilots not allowed, or mission pilot, whatever, okay? This is a mission pilot proficiency, so it's pretty pilot proficiency, so it's pretty self-explanatory. Also gives you the budget, the amount of money that's left in there, all the sorties that have been flown, just a bunch of mission-related information. You don't ever have to go in there if you don't want to, I'm just explaining that it's there. If you look over here to the right, it says air at the top and ground. Obviously we're flying. There's 52, the number 52 means there's been 52 sorties entered in under this proficiency flying for this year. So I'm gonna click on that. This is the first step toward building a sortie, okay? So we've identified the mission we wanna fly. I wanna come in here and I wanna go add a powered sortie. Now I'm at the point where I can start adding a sortie, okay? It's gonna say, what is the sortie type? Well, this is a proficiency, pilot proficiency. It's an A7, or an A12, excuse me. Now I've gotta pick one of these profiles, and that's from that, one of these 12 profiles that I just mentioned in this 71-4, okay? You've gotta print that profile out, by the way. Print it out is the easiest thing to do. Okay, on a computer, a couple pages, and it'll have all the prescription down for all the different flight maneuvers you got to run with on that. Okay, keep that with you when you come to the hangar. That's going to be important in the debrief. Okay, so I'm now to the sortie. I want to say I'm going to do a profile 1, let's just say. All right, this tracking box up here, I could put something in there. I could put anything that I want in there, actually, okay? Some people use it, when I fly cadets, I might put the cadet name in there, just to remind me that the first, because when I go back to the master screen, it doesn't show, if I go back to this screen right here, if I go back to this screen right here, this is a sortie. These are sorties that have been entered in. See where it says powered sorties here? Along this line. See where it says tracking number right here is blank? It doesn't show what the crew is here, but there could be a crew of 3 or whatever. Anyways, just use it for whatever you want to use it for, okay? Unless, say, sometimes ICs will have you put something in there so that they can identify what your sortie is. But anyway, getting back to here, so I just want to kind of go through every single box here. I don't want to skip over it. So tracking numbers, whatever you want it to be. I'm going to put in KRAL. I'm going to put in my estimated time of departure is going to be 8:30. Let's just say 8 o'clock for ease. My destination is going to be KRAL. I'm going to be back here at 10 o'clock. I'm going to say, I'm going to fly 7598 Zulu. Now I'm going to go back over here to the 25th of December. I forgot that box. Okay, so now we filled. Once I click tail number, you see that automatically populated all the information for that aircraft there. So that's kind of nice. Now, at this point, you add your phone number, and your name and phone number. And it says, do you want to create one sorties? How many sorties do you want to create? And then how many days apart? Okay? I recommend just going in and creating one sortie. You can copy that sortie later if you want to. And when you copy it, you can transfer a lot of the data that's in that sortie to the next one. If you create two sorties, let's say you're going to fly, say this was an unfunded mission and you're going to fly and stop and have lunch somewhere and then fly back. So you'd have to have two sorties. Each time you turn the aircraft on and then turn it off, that's a sortie. You might want to create two sorties. Like I said, always just create the first one and then copy the first one over is the easiest way to do it. Now I'm going to add sortie. I'm laughing because my wife says I'm the worst teacher, and I have to say that I really am. I'm trying. Okay, so now that I've said add the sortie, now we go back in. Up until this point, if I backed out of here and went back to this page, nothing would be showing on these lines here for that sortie I built. It just wasn't, it's not there. But now it is showing. So if I'll go over here to December 25th, should be in here. December 25th, 2021. Anyway, let me just continue on with this just for a second. Now you've got so there's several different pieces of information now that you built the sortie that you've got to add. You've got to add weight and balance for every single flight that you fly, okay? Each one of you, as a Civil Air Patrol mission pilot, will receive a free subscription of 4-flight military bag, which is probably a $500 value. If you don't have 4-flight, I suggest getting it if you're going to fly CAP airplanes. One reason why is because all of the weight and balance information for every airplane is already loaded into 4-flight from Civil Air Patrol. So you just a simple matter of taking your phone out and going and dropping down to the end number and loading the airplane, okay? Front passenger 200, second one is 200, third and fourth, whatever, add your fuel in, it gives you a loading graph, you email it to yourself, okay? Once you email it to yourself, you download it to your desktop, you come here, you clip it on there, okay? So the weight and balance has to be done every single sortie, and you upload it right there where it says sortie files. The next thing is go ahead and add yourself in here as the pilot. Then, if you've got a crew, you'll want to add them in here. Now, all these people that are on this list have already been added to the mission. If they've not been added to the mission, you've got to sign them into the mission. Scroll all the way down to the bottom, it says sign in new person. This leaves this web page and takes you to another web page, where then you put in their member number. Emma, what's your number?
670811.
670811. Okay, we're going to add Emma into this mission. Okay, I'm glad that this happened, okay? Because what happened now is we have a glitch with Wimmers, all right? We've got to go back in here, and they're apologizing and all that, but it's still not going to make me any less frustrated. So now I've essentially been kicked out of there, so we're going to go back to the sortie that we built, or started building. We're going to go back here to Annual Pilot Proficiency, California, Air, December 25th, there it is, edit. Now I've got to select myself again since it booted me out. Do that. We'll go down and sign in, new person again. Leave this site. Put Emma's number in. Oh boy, okay. You will find out pretty quickly that you should be doing this stuff the night before you fly, okay? Because you'd be very frustrated, like I am right now, if you wanted to get out and just get flying or something like that. So this is actually probably a good exercise here in patience, but I'm gonna skip adding you, Emma, and I'm just gonna pick somebody that's already in here. Actually, I just won't even add anybody, but anyway, you get the idea. You've got to either pick somebody from this list or add them in. Anytime you change any of the stuff on this page and you think about leaving, the page, update it before you think about it any further, okay? Because otherwise you'll lose the data. All right, so now what have we done? We've landed on the Wimmers page with all the missions on there. We picked out the mission that we wanted to fly. We made sure it's the right date. It's California. We clicked on air. We got into this sortie here. We said, okay, this is the sortie type, the date, departure, airport, arrival airport, estimated time of arrival, departure, our tail number. I put my phone number in there, and then I added sortie, and then it allowed me to go ahead and say, okay, what's your crew going to be, and what's your weight and balance going to be, okay? Everybody got all that? Now we got to do ORM. Now, we don't want to do this more than about a day out. So again, you can put the sortie in there. That's a great way to schedule the airplane if you know that you're going to be flying that A3 mission or A7 mission next week. But don't finish the sortie till night before with this ORM. This is the risk matrix. So we're going to look at it and say, okay, I'm familiar with this mission. It's day. What are the temperatures? I'm going to say, okay, it's 75. I'm just going to answer these questions. And as I answer these questions, it's either going to dawn on me that I shouldn't be flying, or it's just actually going to tell me that I shouldn't be flying, one or the other. It should really dawn on you if it shouldn't be flying, right? If you start answering all these questions, it's like, well, the outside air temperature is fine, but there's reduced, it's IMC less than 501 mile, right? So answer the questions as to what, according to what it is. It'll build a point value of risk. I love this one. Like, who's going to click no go? Yes, right here. Who does that? Like, don't you just stop at that point? But I guess you could if you say, okay, winds are greater than 15 knots. Okay, let's see, no go, and then continue the rest of it in here, right? You get to the end after doing all this, I think, and find out you're not going. All right, so you've got all of this here. I'm just answering the questions. Is it mountainous? Is it not? This is really just very simple. Are you current? What is your currency level? Another one. So I've had significant pain today, sickness or otherwise run down. It's a no-go. Who clicks there? Anyway, don't you just, no, anyway. How many sorties you gonna do here? Routine. Whether it's over water or not. Now, get down here. What are the primary risks to you'll face on this mission? So just think about it for a second. Again, I'm gonna fly profile, proficiency, other aircraft, or is, risk and birds, let's just say. So I might put that down. Other aircraft and birds. What am I going to do to mitigate that? I'm going to use my eyeballs and SoCal, let's say. And then, are there any other risks not previously identified? Say no. Now I go ahead and submit this. And as I do, it'll calculate a score based on all these answers as to whether or not it's a low, medium, or high risk sortie. And it usually doesn't take this long, but nothing really surprises me. in any event, once that finally updates, it'll come down here and it'll say ORM low, medium, high, whatever, okay? All right, now, we've got that. We built our sortie, we put our name in there, we added it, it created a sortie, we put our name, we put our crew, we put our weight and balance, we did the ORM. Now, we've got to brief the sortie. You guys get the idea that it takes a little while to do this?
A little bit.
The flying is free, money-wise. It may not be that free time-wise, but you'll find out it's worth it. Okay, we go over to the brief the sortie here. Come on. All right, now, this is that same field tracking number from the previous, the sortie info page. Area of operation, let's say I'm going to fly KRAL direct to KRIV, and then grid 225 Alpha, okay? My destination, my departure airport is Riverside, destination is Riverside. I'm going to come back here. Is there a base telephone? No. I want you to fill out every single box on this form, okay? Base call sign, we don't have one today. Base frequency, no. Required radio calls, I'll say standard calls. Other aircraft in the area? Yes, various VFR, right? Ground teams? No. And then the sortie objective, we're going to do a mission scanner training. Leading to Squidder sign off. I can't type. Visual search, grid 225, whatever I just said, Alpha, parallel track, simulated ELT, and then on and on. Whatever you're doing, okay, whatever it is that you're doing on that profile, okay, and that's why I say print that out. Remember I said print that out. On the sortie briefing page, you write this down, and then when we debrief it, I'll show you how to do it the easiest way in a second with that printout. So the sortie deliverables are going to be Squidder sign-offs. I'm going to upload those to Wimmers, or excuse me, to e-services, and close out Wimmer sortie info. I'm going to say what the route of flight is. KRAL to KRIV to grid 225 Alpha to KRIV to KRAL. VFR, airspeed, whatever that is, could be 90 KIS. VFR separation. My emergency field is Riverside. I'm going to say as charted for military low-flying routes. Hazards to flight, other aircraft, birds. Current local weather, VFR. Weather en route, area of operations. Forecast area. Forecast weather en route and forecast local. Do I need a flight plan or not? Where Civil Air Patrol says that if it's over 50 nautical miles, you need a flight plan, or you need to be on radar services with SoCal, okay? So we could say, no, we don't need there. We did the ORM, was complete. And are there any other special instructions? And I would say none here, and I would say update, okay? Now, we've got our briefing done. So we go back to sortie information. Now we have one last thing to do, and that is pick a flight release officer. I like to use Mike Swift because he's available a lot. Click down to about 6 buttons, see Mike Swift right there, and submit. You see that there's something going on SFRO versus these people that don't have that. And that SFRO, I think it stands for Special Flight Release Officer.
Senior.
Senior, flight relief, thank you, Ben. I was looking at you because I knew you didn't know the answer yet. And what is the difference between a SFRO and a flight release officer?
An SFRO can release flights with higher ORM scores generally,
Mainly instrument flights.
and instruments.
Essentially, you're talking about flights that are in the IMC are probably always going to be released by an SFRO. And one of the requirements is an SFRO has to be a pilot and also an instrument rated pilot. All right, so you'll notice that this is the last thing I did right here. I didn't have to do this last. I could have done that first. But you see that it says send email to selected FRO. I just sent an email to Mike Swift. If you do it first, it sends that email to Mike Swift first. And Mike, because he's very on top of things, would go to the sortie and say, look at it and realize, well, Terry hasn't done his ORM, he hasn't selected a crew. He's like, why is he so unprepared? And then he'd call me and I'd say, well, Mike, I'm not done building all of it. So when you're done building it all, then send it to the FRO, then they know that you're done with everything. How long did that take? 25 minutes to discuss? It doesn't take that long when you're actually doing it, but it does take it takes some time, okay? So let's just talk about the steps again. We got into e-services. We went down here to Wimmers. We selected the mission that we're going to fly. We made sure that the mission was in the current year and within California. And here it is right here. And then we select air. And then we came in here, we said we're going to add a powered sortie. We did that. Once we did it, then a blank field shows up here. We put a tracking number if we want, or info if we want. We selected the sortie type, the date, the airports, the times. We selected the tail number. It self-populated everything. Then we came down here. I put my name and phone number in. I said add sortie. At that point, everything really started. It created a sortie in Wimmers that I could come back to later. Okay? And by the way, that schedules the airplane when you do that. At that point, it schedules the airplane on the scheduling, okay, calendar, but not with a TBD, but with this mission number. So whoever's looking at it can say, oh, Terry's flying an 8-3 that day, or he's flying it, whatever it is, and they know whether or not the mission that they would want to fly the airplane for has precedence or not. So once we got to that point, now you could come back, if you knew the mission you're flying next week or something, but maybe you didn't know the crew, you maybe just get to that point. Then you come back, the final touches then are what you know the crew, you click the sortie files here and you upload your weight and balance that you created from ForeFlight. You select your crew, got your crew. If they're not in there, you had to go to that separate website and it may or may not work quickly. Then you do your ORM, right? Then you come back here and you brief the sortie on this tab, fill in all these squares, and then when all that's done, you dial up a flight release officer. Now you're ready to go flying, okay? As soon as you get the flight release. So once you send that information to the flight release officer, now you've got to call that flight release officer and answer a bunch of questions, okay? And they will, after that discussion, they'll go ahead and release the flight, which will be in the form of an email coming to you on your phone. Really important for you to set up and use Civil Air Patrol email if you're going to fly, okay? So, or he'll tell you over the phone, hey, it's released, and just make sure before it's closed out, before you do any closeout information, that it's electronically released. Sometimes a flight release officer will verbally tell you, hey, I'm on the road, I can't enter it in there, you're released verbally. It's the unforgivable sin to come back and land and close out the sortie without even knowing if it was released or not. I mean, it would say that on the sortie, but that has happened a few times lately. I'm only calling that out because that's a real, don't get yourself in that pickle. So just confirm that it's electronically released before you start filling out any closing information. So let's go back in here, we've already flown. and we're gonna go back in and close out the sortie. Remember when I talked about having that profile printed off? This is where it's gonna come in handy. I'm gonna go debrief. Well, first of all, I'm gonna put in the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here and do the closeout information, okay? And that is the Hobbs TAC. The AIF, the book that goes with us in the airplane, has a sheet that we fill out the starting and ending times, okay? It's best if, when you write that down, take a picture of that so it's on your phone, so that you have the beginning Hobbs, because it's the same thing. Come on. Really? The book shows ending on the top and starting on the beginning, or on the bottom, so it's just a subtraction. And so you just take a picture of that, it'd be on your phone, because you might not be doing this right after the sortie is over, okay? You might have to get home. You don't have to do this right away. You could do it within 24 hours, okay? And you're not gonna have the book with you, that's for sure. So whatever you write in the book, go ahead and take a picture of so that you can refer back to it later. And here's where you put in the ending and starting and all that. Okay, and say, it'll calculate, then say, was there fuel used on this sortie or not? If there's no fuel on it, you click no fuel. Okay? Let's say you fly 3 sorties, and on the last sortie you buy fuel. The first 2 sorties you're closing out, you click no fuel. On the 3rd sortie, that's where you put your fuel data in. Okay? All 3 sorties you're going to put Hobbs ending and starting, and it'll calculate the total, as well as ending and starting for TAC, and it'll calculate the total. When you put fuel in, you use the card that's in the aircraft, okay? And you'll want to get the receipt. Make sure you get the receipt from that, because it's going to ask you, yes?
Are there times where you won't use the card to get fuel?
If you don't have the card, or if it's not a mission that's funded by the Air Force. A missions is when we're using the card. B missions and C missions, you're using your own card, okay? Come on. Oh boy. I don't know how you computer guys do it, I tell you. It's rough on me. So we put the receipt number in there, the fuel and oil cost in there, and then we click this button because it's National Credit Card paid for, okay? And then we click Update, all right? Now, we still haven't done anything with a fuel receipt right here, and I'm purposely skipping that for a moment, all right? Because that's a whole other process that we're gonna have to do here, and I've gotta figure out how to do it and show you. All of this information, when you put it in, then goes right onto the debrief page. See right here where it says Hobbs and TAC? So that's going to be pre-filled in for you once you've completed it on the sortie info page. And then we click this bottom tab to go to debrief. The fuel, oil, and all this stuff will be in there. In the summary here is what we've got to fill out. This is where we would say uploaded to Wimmers. Profile 1 complete. That's you take a pen and you mark off all the little items on that sheet that you did, and then you scan it and you upload it over here on the sortie info page. How can I get it to stop switching pages like
You
that?
gotta turn that tab rotate off. It's in the top right of the screen.
That
It's
one
one
right
of
there?
those, yeah, that one on the very top.
Oh boy. Okay. Learn something every day. If over here on the briefing page, sorry. Oh, I completely lost my train of thought.
Over here on the briefing page.
No, right here. Yeah, it's on the sortie information page. Remember where I uploaded the weight and balance? Okay, this is where you upload the page that has your profile information on it, okay? And you can just say, you can add a folder name here if you want to, or if there's one that's already named, Profile 4 or Profile 1. This is where you upload that. Okay, so that's the easy way out, so you don't have to go and on the debrief page describe every single last thing that you did. You just say, upload it to Wimmer's Profile 1. Results of deliverables, successful, okay? If they were successful. Weather conditions, VFR, or whatever the weather conditions were. Remarks, none. You may not be telling them much, but you want to fill out every single box here. And maybe there will be times you have more to say. Sortie effectiveness will say successful. What was your briefing ID? You put your number in there and you update it. So now, what have we done on the finish the flight part? We've got 5-10 minutes. We finished the flight by putting in the closeout information, the fuel receipt. We've uploaded to this tab here that profile sheet. We've gone to the debrief page and filled in all the information on the debrief page that needed to be filled in that wasn't pre-populated from what we just did on the sortie info page. Now we have one last thing to do, two last things to do. We need to create a receipt that Wimmer's will take. And to do that, you're going to need this application that I'm going to tell you about right now. Jot this website down. Actually, do you have it, Emma? Do you know it offhand? Okay.
I think
I'll look at
I
it.
have it somewhere.
It just comes across. It is called phone's not loading.
Mobile tools?
Yeah. Whatever that website address is, it only shows up for about a half a second, right, when you open the app,
Yep.
which is why it's I'm mystified as to why I'm not getting any. Okay, there it is.
Yes, PCRM. PRMA.
It's just mobile-tools.cwg.
Mobile-tools.
.cwgcap.org.
What'd you say the rest of it was, Bob?
I have decimal cwgcap.org. That's what I've copied before.
Let's see if I got the same. Yeah, PCRCap.org.
Yeah.
PCRCap.org. Right? PCRCap?
Yes.
Take you directly to that website. It looks like an app if you put it on your phone. Do you know what I'm talking about? So you open up this app, and I just said app, and I meant not to say it. You open up this website, okay? And it asks you for a password. It's your same password that you use for your CAP email, okay? I've got about 10 different Microsoft accounts apparently, so, okay, find the right one. All right, so this is what the website looks like on your phone, okay? You guys see that? Okay? Something right here on the left says Form 14. Form 14. That's what we're going to fill out. Form 14, okay? The Form 14, you can take a picture from there, or you can have one in your gallery. I've already taken a picture of my fuel receipt right there, and so I would just load my fuel receipt in there, okay? Then, actually this might work, I don't know. There's a sortie type it asks you for, error, your cap ID, the mission number, the sorties for this receipt. Remember I said if you have 3 sorties, but you only buy fuel on one of them, you still put all 3 sorties in here that you flew, that you're refilling the gas for, but you're only putting the gas receipt in on the last one. So it might be sortie alpha 100, 101, 102, etc. The vendor name you bought it from, the vendor location, KRAL, there's really only two vendors we have, Riverside Air Service or Rain Cross. Your name, the tail number, the number of hobs, the fuel quantity that you purchased, the price per gallon, and then the total receipt dollars. Once you've done that, check it 3 times, unless you want to do it over again. Because if you make an error, which is so easy, you know, fat fingers, little screen, you make an error, you'll find out when you download it, it's like, oh, I have the wrong date on there or something like that. That is the one gotcha on that app, is that if it's in Zulu time. So right now, what time does the date change? 4 o'clock in the afternoon? And if you're doing that, say you just landed, it's 4:30 and you're in the hangar, and you're going to say, what day did you fly? It's pre-populating tomorrow's date on your phone already. So if you don't catch that, you get it back and say, oh no, it's actually still the 16th of November, right? Once you're done with it, click submit. It sends that copy of that 104 to your email. Again, then just download it, save it as a PDF to your desktop, and then you can go back in here and choose that file receipt here. Choose the file off your desktop, clip it on there, and then click update. Now, what have we done? We've flown. We went out and flew. We came back. We put our closeout information in there, our ending hobs and tack. It calculated the numbers for us. We made sure that matched the book. We put in the number of fuel gallons used, if we used any oil, the cost of both, the receipt number, we said national credit card. We clicked update to keep all that information in there. Then we left that page and went over, and then we put in the sortie files here. We put in a scanned copy of the profile that we flew with our little X marks on all the stuff that we flew. Then we went back over here to debrief, and we filled in the blocks that were not already populated from the information that we placed in there. This is all going to be populated from the closeout information, but then we have to put all of our information here. The summary, which is uploaded to Wimmer's Profile 1, the deliveries, or the deliverables uploaded to Wimmer's, weather conditions, yada yada. Okay, now, and then we came back to the sortie information after we did that, and we did our Cap 14, and we added the fuel receipt on there. Now, we are literally one step away from being done. We added our sortie in here. The last thing we've got to do is create an E108. If we don't buy fuel, we don't do E108s. Let's just say you're flying cadets, and the last pilot left the tanks at 88 gallons. Okay, and you know that you're gonna, someone's told you to leave 65 gallons in there because we're flying with a heavy crew, we're flying a WADS mission on Thursday. So okay, so you don't buy any fuel. Even though it's an Air Force reimbursed mission, you would still think you do a 108. If you don't buy fuel, you don't do this next process. So that is, if you don't buy fuel on a C mission or a B mission because you're paying for it for yourself, you don't do this process either, okay? Up here in Finance and Administration, it says Create E108. You select National Headquarters. Now, it'll show all of the air sorties that are in here that have fuel purchased on them, ready to submit. You pick the one that is yours. This guy would really be mad at me if I did this right now. Just somebody's sortie in here. He may not even be done with it, but you just click this button right here. You say that's the one, okay, that I just did, and you click submit, and you're done. Now, all of your paperwork is done for Civil Air Patrol, okay, for that day. Do not do that. Do not do an E108 until you're absolutely sure that everything is complete. Make sure that everything's complete. Because once you've clicked that button, there's no going back. It is locked in there for good. The only guy that can change that is a guy that you don't want to talk to about it, believe me. So. All right, any questions?
What was that on the first page?
Huh?
What was that on the first page? Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
I should-
yeah.
So on that last page, you'd said like you could have clicked on that guy's even though you didn't know who that was. Does that mean other people, like if they accidentally clicked on it?
Yes.
and
They could. It's a risk we run.
submit it? So if you really don't like someone, you wait for them.
It's never happened to me, and I've never thought about it in those terms, but yes, you could do that, I suppose. I mean, so anyway, that's all that we have for tonight. That's a lot. It's on videotape now. If you get bored, we can go back and figure out how to do it. You have an hour to play and replay that, but you'll get better with it over time. This is an introduction to all the different steps. At least you know it's not quite. If you get done with it in 5 minutes, you know you're doing something wrong. So, all right. That's all we've got for tonight. And next week we have Thanksgiving, so happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And then, well, we're off for Thanksgiving, yes. And then it'll be
December the
CAP Sunday, December 7th, right? Which, by the way, if you guys don't know anything about that,